He came to reveal the truth of God about sin and righteousness and to break Satan's power in the world, not Rome's, right? And the cross and empty tomb of which we're journeying to was his way of doing that. His kingdom would be ushered in through an act of sacrificial love, not military force like Pilate would have taken it as. His kingdom is ushered in through an act of sacrificial love. So for Rome, peace came through the sword, right? And truth was whatever Caesar said is truth, right? That's how their earthly kingdom is fortified. But for Christ's kingdom, peace comes through his shed blood, doesn't it? And it comes through the truth of his word. And so to us, God's kingdom, it seems upside down, but really I want us to see here, it is right side up. We're upside down, right? His kingdom is right side up, and we're upside down. Our world and everything that we know and the way we've been desensitized to threats and violence and brutality, our world from the current state of the fall is upside down. Things are not right. But Jesus, one day, we know, this is the hope we talked about earlier, we know will put an end to violence once and for all. Will put an end to evil once and for all. He'll judge those who've persisted in the way that leads to death. And then under his rule and reign, when his kingdom fully comes on earth as it is in heaven, he's going to restore all things back to rights. He'll wipe away every tears, and all of these things that we know now will be a distant memory in the past. And what a day that is going to be. Jesus' kingdom is not from this world. And it doesn't share the same value sets as we have. It doesn't come through violence or force. It comes through sacrificial love. I finish out the passage in verses 38b through 40. This is the interesting little bit we get about Barabbas. After he had said this, he went back outside to the Jews and told them, this is Pilate going back out, said, I find no guilt in this guy. Sorry, I'm taking liberties there. I find no guilt in him. But you have a custom that I should release one man for you at the Passover. So, do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews? I hope you see what Pilate's doing here. He's kind of antagonizing. Do you want me to release your king to you guys? They cried out again, not this man, but Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. Last way we see the upside-down kingdom of God in this passage is this. We have a king of sacrifice. We have a king of sacrifice. If you're on social media, and again, not using this illustration passingly, using it because it's relevant, you'll see that many people are or were praising Ukraine's President Zelensky. Why? Because as his country has been in the thick of it, he seems to be right there, doesn't he? Standing arm in arm with his citizens. Now, I want to preface that with this. Only what we know is through media. We're not there. We don't know of all of what's happening, so we don't really fully know the story. But from what it seems, what I've seen of people posting online of what a great president he is that he's willing to sacrifice his own life for the good of his country. He's willing to sacrifice his life for his people, right, and their freedoms. And people have greatly applauded him for that. Because think about it. He could be off in a shelter somewhere hiding away, couldn't he? I mean, he's president. And maybe there's a part of that that's true. I don't know. Again, I don't know. But instead, he seems to be right there with his people, right? And this is what we see of our good shepherd king, but in an even better way. He's a king of sacrifice. Even though the Roman governor finds no fault in him, he becomes the true Passover lamb who's willing to lay down his life for his sheep. And we even see that while the innocent king will go on to be sacrificed, a guilty man gets to go free in the process, Barabbas. And I think that maybe, I don't know if John is underselling it here, but Barabbas or Barabbas, however you want to say it, he's a bad dude here. Okay? On no other occasion would the Jews have wanted this guy back into their arms. Okay, like John calls him a robber, but more than that, he's like an insurrectionist or a terrorist. The very reason that they're killing Jesus mixed in with his theological issues, they think, man, he's stirring stuff up, and if Rome gets wind of it, we could be in real trouble. Well, Barabbas is the same thing here. He's an insurrectionist or a terrorist, and no other occasion would they have wanted him and welcomed him back into their arms. But this is what they're doing, right? The Jews call for him to be released while Jesus stands there in shackles. And this is a picture of the gospel. This is the picture of what Jesus has done for us, that he takes on the chains, he takes on our sin. Well, who gets to go free? We do, right? The guilty one goes free while the innocent one is indicted. This is what's happening with Barabbas. And so I want to say this and kind of end with this. How amazing is it? Don't you think of Philippians 2, that we have a king who is willing to step off his throne, put on servant's clothes, and die for his people. Like, don't let that get lost on you here. That is incredible. That he left the glories of heaven to save not just like his beloved, but people who were his enemies. He laid down his life for us. This is our king. And this is his kingdom. It is a kingdom of sacrificial love. Now, that was a tease. I really want to end with this. I struggled this past week. I felt like, man, this is really abstract. I feel like teaching on the kingdom, but it's certainly not deep enough for what it deserves, but certainly this. And I don't know where to go with this. But the kingdom of God, think back to Matthew chapter 6. Jesus says this, but seek first the kingdom of God. Right? God's kingdom is something that we can pursue and seek with our whole being. It's something that we can give ourselves to now, right? It is a reality for us now and is also a future reality for us. So how do we live as subjects of his kingdom now as it is in heaven? 2 ways. First is this, acts of sacrificial love. Acts of sacrificial love. We fall in the way of our king. Right? As I have loved you, so you also ought to what? Love one another. I'm leaving you with this example as I wash your dirty, disgusting feet, that this is how you're to follow me, that this is how you're to seek first my kingdom, to lay down your life for one another. Right? Acts of sacrificial love for one another, for those you love, your family, for our neighbors, but even this is where the rubber meets the road, but even for our enemies. Jesus says that's the true sign of the kingdom, when you love your enemies, because that's what he did, right? I was yesterday working in my kitchen, and I was thinking and writing, and my kids, they're bruisers, and Riley gave Grace a nice slap on the back, and I think he had his shirt off too, so it was like handprint slap. And I said something to him. I don't remember what I said, but Grayson was the one who initiated reconciliation with him. Riley slaps his back, and I was like, come on, said something. And Grayson goes. And he hugged him. And it was kind of at this moment, I think, when I was even like at the end of this, you're probably like, how do you work with your kids in the kitchen? First of all, I can't get past that. Great question. Headphones are wonderful. But it kind of dawned on me in that moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it right there. Like, he didn't deserve to be hugged at that moment, but Grayson went and initiated it. And he initiated that loving interaction and reconciliation. You might have neighbors, coworkers, family members, people you just don't like. Maybe enemy might be a strong word. But the way the kingdom of God will be seen for what it is in the love of our King is by loving our enemies. Right? By loving our enemies. The second one is this. Go tell it on the mountains. Right? Go tell it on the mountains. Tell of his sacrificial love on the cross. So this is the good news. And in that day when people would come pronouncing good news, they would make an announcement of the reign of a new king. Now this is where I know that this is certainly too shallow for this conversation in terms of what we talked about today. But Satan was the ruler of this world. Jesus has reclaimed his throne, and his kingdom will come one day. And so we tell of the good news. There's a new king, a king of life, a king of peace, a king of love, and he's laid down his life for you so that you could be reconciled back to God and live in the new creation. Right? So acts of sacrificial love and telling of his sacrificial love, of the good news of what he's done for us. If Annette's in here, I'm going to have Annette come up. Today is Communion Sunday. Before we do that, though, I'm going to ask you to stand with me. And we're gonna read the Lord's Prayer together. And if you know the Lord's Prayer, you know why we're doing this. So we're gonna pray this. This is not just us reciting this. This is us praying this together. Okay, so pray it with me. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.